We might have to do that in the future. Get together and burn some of that old ammo up.
There we
There
go.
you go. Yeah.
Since I've got all this time around the house, I'm finding ammunition stuck in cans I hadn't seen in 20 years.
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union. And now, your hosts.
Hello and welcome to Meet the Pressers. I'm Matt Mallory and my esteemed co-host, Klint Macro, are here to bring you a very special guest. But before we get to our very special guest, I want to tell you a little bit about the show. We talk about shooting, we blow things up, we talk about political activism, a little bit of faith, and a little bit of gear review mixed in. We might get to a little bit of that today as well. So Klint, why don't you take it away and introduce our guest?
Well, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest. He is the fastest shooter in the world, I think. His trigger finger is faster than most, fully automatic firearms that you may find out there. And Jerry Miculek, thank you for coming on the show. It's a great honor to have you here, and I look forward to talking to you over the next 20 minutes or so.
Well, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. I'm ready to go.
This episode is brought to you by Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is sponsored by Next Level Training, Saber Red, Cutting Edge Bullets, the USCCA, McLean Corporation, ASP, Custom Poker Chip Company, Common Sense Self-Defense, and T1 Ammunition. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by these fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
What would be the strangest thing that you've seen happen on a range?
Wow. Well, that's an off the wall question. I could, well, one of the strangest things, I would say strange, but it's kind of the concept of competition. We were shooting it was a team event. My wife and I and my brother-in-law were shooting a three-person team against a three-person team. And we tied several times, which is kind of strange. And the opposing team asked us for ammunition to shoot against us. And my wife agreed, gave them some ammo. We tied again and asked for more ammunition. And on the fourth time, I think it was the fourth or fifth run, they actually beat us. So
you got beat with your own ammo.
Got beat with my own ammo. So I guess that's kind of strange. Well, I've seen, unfortunately, I've seen some accidents happen on the range. And probably one of the biggest accidents that people can avoid is properly unloading your semi-automatic pistol. You know, you see a guy try to capture the round when they do the unloading sequence, and I've seen 5 of those detonations where it actually detonate into your hand, your weak hand, trying to catch the round. Yeah. So instead of letting the cartridge hit the ground or just whatever, they try to capture it, and then it falls off the extractor and it hits the ejector.
Yep.
Between and anyway, it's just not good. So I've probably seen 5 of those.
Wow.
Okay. That's good to report. I've heard of that happening. I've never witnessed it, but I always advise my students and my instructor candidates, just drop the magazine, cycle that action, let the round hit, make the gun safe, then pick up your stuff.
But right. It's a 30-cent round. I don't want to waste that ammo.
Well, you also look really cool. You look cool when you do that.
Well, that's why they do it. That's the only reason they do it.
Until it blows up in your hand, then you don't look cool.
There's basically 2 techniques there's actually 3. One I call showboating, where you eject it and you catch it in the air.
Okay.
Which is frowned upon, because a lot of guys that do it, when they go to catch it, the muzzle comes up, and so it's not a good thing. And the other one is you try to grab it before it hits the ground. If you're going to do that, just take your time. I mean, it's not a speed event. Right. There's no prize. I've never seen a trophy awarded at the end of the match at who's fastest to the holster.
Right.
There isn't any, so just take your time, be safe. Yeah. And the third one is the correct way. Just let it hit the ground. Post it up and then police your ammo and then go about your business.
Hey, greetings, everyone. This is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Once upon a time when I was in Congress, I went on a show called Meet the Press. But I'm more so interested in being with Matt and Klint on Meet the Pressers, because they're much more exciting, much more fun, because I can't think of anything better than to be able to exercise my Second Amendment right in pressing that trigger. So join me and stay tuned with Matt and Klint at Meet the Pressers.
Meet the Pressers.
Competition is all about cycles and keeping your cycles in cycle.
Well, consistency breeds success no matter what you're doing, right?
It is. You got to have a system. It's like before I go to a competition, I have a one-page checklist of every item I'm going to need at that match, and I physically put my hand on it. I empty the bag out, and I physically 5 magazines. Oh, I've got a holster, and I've got a belt liner, and I've got a pair of shooting glasses, and I got my muff. So it's a big one-page checklist, just like a pilot would check his aircraft.
Yep.
Physically,
Pre-flight check.
Yeah, got to have a checklist.
Yeah. That sounds a lot like Klint and I instructing and teaching all over the country. Same kind of concept. We're going to go teach. Like I'm going to Long Island to teach 3 courses this weekend, and
Right.
I can't just run across. If I'm teaching here at my location where I've got a classroom in one house right next to my main house, I can luxury forget something because everything's here. I can run next door. But when I'm driving to Long Island, I got to put hands on it because I don't want to get to Long Island and have to go to Walmart or some other place to buy something because I need it for the class.
Yeah, you got to have a checklist. That life is a lot simpler when you have a checklist. Less hazards, less downtime. Especially at a competition where all our equipment is so specialized, you don't have the option of running to a box store and say, give me a holster for what above. You're not going to find it. So you have to have it with you, and you have to have a checklist.
So speaking of that's kind of a neat way to go down a thought process here. What kind of MacGyver duct tape things have you seen be done at the range so people can continue competing?
Well, you see just about everything. That's the thing about having friends at a competition is that you can run to them for parts. Yeah. If I fly to a competition, usually my shooting equipment is so maxed out on weight, I don't want to pay extra baggage fee, for pounds overweight. So you have everything down to the minimum, and you go to a match and you say you need something, and then that's where the friendship thing comes in. Mm-hmm. You have guys that drive the competitions. Like I have a buddy, he and his wife usually drive, and I actually leave ammunition with him in his trailer.
That's nice.
It's kind of a go-to. He saved me a couple of times. Because there was one time I went to a match and I forgot to bring a round of ammunition.
Oh.
I drove to the event, walked the stages, and that night I got to the hotel room and I was thinking, oh, no ammo. So you do 21, 22 events a year. Sometimes you just forget. I had it all by the door, ready to go, and I forgot to put the ammunition into the vehicle. So there I am. And he was luckily he had my match long-range rifle ammo. So I was able to run to a box store and just buy ball ammo for the close-range stuff. But I did have my 500-600-yard ammo in his trailer, which saved the day for me. But you just can't find what you need at that last moment. So stuff like that, you share equipment and tools. You have guys running up to you, man, I need a screwdriver. I need a whatever.
Loctite.
Yeah, so you just it's kind of a lend-lease thing. Everybody has their.
I'm sure everyone you compete with is a formidable adversary. But was there ever someone that you competed against that you thought, "Wow, I don't know if I can beat this person"?
Well, there's a lot of people like that. But the competition lasts for several days. So the term I use, you give them enough rope to hang themselves, Just you have to stay honest every stage. So the idea of a competition is who shoots the most consistent over a 3-day or a 4-day or a 2-day platform. So the idea is not to give up too much ground on any one stage. You don't have to win every stage to win the match.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any mind games going on? Do you like, punk people out like, oh, that gun, man?
It used to be that way, but the older you get, you've got your own cycle and you don't really care what other people do.
Fair.
And how they shoot. So there are guys who do not want to see the scores. They don't want to see the scores. It puts too much pressure on them. I've shot so many matches, it doesn't matter. If the guy ahead of me lead me by 1 point or 100 points, it's just reality. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and that's all I can do.
Well, that's what you need to do. You can't worry about the shot you just shot. You got to worry about the next one coming up, right?
Like you said there, the most important shot is the one that you're about to take.
Hello, folks. It's Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. I train cops in all 50 states. I I train every military armed forces, all of our tier 1 spec ops. I also train civilian sheepdogs. My book on combat is the definitive reference for those who are going to be in the fight. Issued in the DA Academy, Marshals Academy, Marine Corps Commandant's required reading. A lot of other books, but one of the ones for your purposes is my book, Sheepdogs. It's for kids. It's about becoming a sheepdog, getting their head right, getting their heart right. It talks a lot about military law enforcement sheepdogs. People said, Dave, I'm at the NRA every year. What about all of us civilian sheepdogs? So we wrote the book, Why Mommy Carries a Gun. But for all of you sheepdogs out there, all you magnificent Americans who are pushing the frontiers of freedom, you need to be at Meet the Pressers. I love that name. We're all trigger pressers. We are all pressers. Come meet the pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Awesome Americans in the front lines of freedom. Be there. You'll be glad you did.
Meet the Pressers.
Three gun is a lot of equipment management. You have to be able to switch gears really quick on shooting style, but also with 3 different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep them all running. A lot of guys are a race driver, but they're not a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what happens in 3 gun. If I have a problem with something, say the rifle's balking or something and it's not doing what I want it to do, I have to diagnose that piece of equipment really quick for the next stage. So what am I going to do to get this thing running? What's wrong with it? Is it ammunition, magazine, or gas system, or gas rings, or what? Trigger group going out? What's the problem? I got to reboot it and get it back into the game for the next stage. So I think 3 gunners have more knowledge of their equipment than a race guy. Might specialize on one platform. So, and that's where all the pieces and parts come in too, because it's hard to carry spare. When you're shooting a pistol match, you can bring a duplicate pistol, but when you're shooting a 3 gun match and you had to fly to it, you can't really bring a backup
For everything.
set of guns.
Yeah.
You could, but it would cost you an arm and a leg and so everything is cost versus risk versus reward.
Mm-hmm.
So you have enough pieces and parts that you think might need and hopefully never use in your bag.
Like a crash kit.
So you have to know your equipment really good.
Yeah.
A crash kit, yeah.
Yep.
And also temperature changes. That's one thing about competition. We take a perfectly fine platform like the AR-15 when it was originally designed, and we mess with it. We change bolts, gas systems, ammunition, springs, buffers, and we actually make it so specified to one ammunition that if it changes temperature or hot or cold. So you kind of learn through the years. It might not be the most trick piece of equipment, but it has to run all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So trick usually gets you in trouble. What people don't realize, you take like the AR-15 when it's used in its intent, like for a service grade firearm, it's gas ported and sprung, and the magazine and everything is tuned to that NATO round, which is a specific chamber pressure, velocity versus, and at the extreme temperatures that it's tested at, which is real world. Yeah. So you get a race gun and you jet it and you change the gas system and the springs and the buffers. Now you've tuned it for a very specific ammunition in a very specific temperature range. So it might work good when it's 80 degrees, but when it's 43 degrees in the morning, how is it going to work? Mm-hmm. You have no idea until you find out. That's what competition does. A lot of this really trick stuff. I found out years ago, I was in Phoenix shooting a 3 gun. We were shooting Superstition Mountain Mystery 3 gun, and it actually snowed. It was snowing in Phoenix, and 2 of my guns quit in the match.
They Southern guns?
Pardon?
Or were they Southern guns?
Yeah, that's what kind of opened my eyes. This was a long time ago, 20 years ago maybe. But it really, Louisiana, 100 degrees, 90 degrees, 80 degrees all the time. And all of a sudden it's snowing, and my gun said, no, I'm not going to play today. I made them so good, they're not going to work. So I
pampered them.
You had a bit of a learning curve going on. So I had to change lubrication on the guns. I had to change ammunition. I had to cut springs here and there, just try to get them running. And that's part of the deal of when you're going through the learning curve. You think you can buy knowledge. You can buy an upgrade. You can buy a $200 part, and it's going to make you as good as the next guy. In reality, you should have spent that money on ammo, left the gun alone, and better yourself with technique and actual performance. You can't buy performance. You can only buy, well, let me say, you can buy performance only to a certain level, and then it becomes you. You have to actually physically spend the time on the range to get there, no matter how many little pieces and bright, shiny parts you buy. And you know, I heard years ago, an old man told me, he said, you know, that fishing lure, when you walk into a bait shop, the fishing lure is made to catch the fisherman and not the fish.
That's good.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily what the fish would want, but it looks good to you. So you buy it, you're going to think you're going to, instead of spending time and actually researching the species of fish and the water conditions and the temperature range of when the fish are going to feed, you buy a little shiny bait and you go out, you don't catch anything.
Hey, I'm Larry Vickers of Vickers Tactical, and this is Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Clint Macro.
Meet the Pressers.
I don't get to shoot that much because I'm teaching all the time. But one of the last classes I took with another instructor, I went in as his student, and we were trying to get a high precision shot with the pistol, and I extended the gun and pressed the shot, and I missed. And he says, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And I said, "Clearly my sights are off." He threw a rock at me.
You gotta, as you grow as a professional, you have your list of things you can fall back on, like the sun was in my eyes, or it was a little rough, or the ammunition not grouping well. Or you got to have all these things so you can blank out reality.
So I understand you practice a lot. Obviously, you know, looking at how well you perform, I think that's a fair thing to say. Getting some trigger time. Do you have any other training regimens besides shooting, like fitness or diet or anything that you do to prepare yourself for a competition?
That's a very broad question, and to be brutally honest, as I get older, I do the minimum it takes to do the job.
Okay.
You can overtrain a lot of times. The physical part, you have to stay active. You're going to do a 3-gun match, and you're going to have to run. Well, you're going to have to do some fitness training to stay at that level. That's just the reality of the moment there. But training with firearms, it's like right now with everything going on, and all the matches have been canceled, and so my training has kind of defaulted. I went out and shot this morning like 350 rounds or something, fired up some old ammo, just trying to get the finger back in shape a little bit. But it's really hard to stay in the moment and train really hard, not knowing if you're going to get a chance to actually use that investment. Because if I'm going to shoot strictly a speed match, I'm going to train for what I think is going to be the most beneficial for that. And if I call it getting hot. You get a certain group of muscles ready for a speed match, and it doesn't happen. Well, you've invested that time, and it's not applicable to anything else. Maybe self-defense or something. But trying to stay at the ultimate level of competition for a long period of time is extremely hard on the body. It's just a lot of repetition. If you're in any sport, to stay in that moment of the highest level takes a huge amount of commitment. But to stay at a constant level with a lot of guns is not really hard, but it still takes a lot of maintenance. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the maintenance part, you're always working on the maintenance part. What can I do? So I go out and cycle my guns, and I get a feel for what they're doing and what I'm going to do with them, and that's what I shoot for. But if you really have a high-level match coming up, then the commitment has to match the level of the match. And then you have to really do the cardio and flex and endurance training for that, which is hard. That's the hard part of it.
Ammunition. Do you reload your own ammo?
Well, we just did a video on reloading somewhat. I reload a lot of ammo. Most of my ammunition that I train with is going to be a reload of some kind.
Nice.
I do have sponsors for ammunition, but it doesn't really satisfy everything that I need, and so I do a lot of reloading. But in competition, my ammunition will be a mixture. If I can tailor their ammunition exactly to what I'll need, it'll probably be some kind of a reload.
Everybody's got their favorite products in Kung Fu when it comes to cleaning. What's your favorite cleaning Kung Fu?
Well, my maintenance on my guns is kind of like an oil change on a car. I'm a maintenance mechanic by training, so lubrication and how things interact with one another, the duty cycle of a grease on oil. So every time I go out and shoot, I'll oil whatever I'll have on the range for that cycle, and I just kind of go by a visual. Like with an AR-15, or that kind of a platform, I can pretty much feel how it's cycling. And I'll never shoot a gun dry. You know, the modern sporting rifle, the AR series, likes to stay wet.
Mm-hmm.
It's better when it's wet. So I'll keep. I'm sponsored by Hoppies now, and that's one of their strong points is their oils that they sell, and their clean product, like the Hoppies number 9. That's like historic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't that a perfume?
Yeah,
I was going to say, can you see if they'll make a women's perfume out of that? I think that would sell real well.
When I was a young man, we had a little cleaning kit, and you opened it up, it had the Hoppies in it, you know, and you just got accustomed to it, and it's just a great product line. So I kind of go by cycles. If I'm going to shoot a competition, I'm going to thoroughly clean every firearm that I'm going to take to that match.
Okay. I'm
fortunate enough to live where I could actually go out of my shop and shoot them into a bullet trap. I never want to shoot a clean gun at a match. Mm. If I just detailed a pistol, say like an M&P long slide 9 or whatever, and I just went it from stem to stern, did it, you know, thorough cleaning, I like to step out the door and shoot a couple. I want to make sure I didn't introduce something into that cleaning that the gun is not functional. Same thing with an AR. You do this, you take it all apart, and I detail it. And being a mechanic, my mindset is everything I'm looking at is wrong. Everything is broken. So I have to look at that firing pin and go like, well, that's good. I'm going to look at the bolt, and I'm going to look at the gas tube, and I'm going to look at it like it's going to be broken until I say it's good.
So maintenance during the match, I know some like F-class shooters and some like 3-position small bore guys that will, unless there's a problem, they'll never clean their bore until they're done with their season. What's your viewpoint on cleaning the bore itself?
I'll usually go a match without touching it, but I'll on the rifle I'll usually detail it every day. I'll give it a little oil. Same thing with the pistol. If it looks like it's been exposed to a lot of grit during the day, I'll take it down and clean it. It depends on how hard I ran it that day and what conditions. If I got rain or something during the day, I'm going to take everything down. Yeah. Shotgun magazine springs are very susceptible to rust, and everybody. That's one part of the shotgun system I would have to say most people never think about.
Yeah.
Extremely important is the magazine on a shotgun. Yeah. I think they actually design springs to rust. It's a constant maintenance that you have to take that spring and clean it, wipe the inside of the magazine tube out, make it clean. So that's one of probably the most overlooked aspects of shotgun shooting is the maintenance of the magazine until you get into trouble. And the other thing I found, I'll pass that along to the guys listening, is everybody who makes an extended magazine tube for a shotgun, they put a hole on the end, which is really great when you dump it in a drum. It fills up with sand, and when you pick the muzzle up, all the sand goes right into the tube. There's a perfect way to induce a malfunction on a shotgun is by putting a hole in the end of that magazine cap. So all my guns, I plug them, I tape them. That's one of the first things that I'll do is disable that automatic fouling of when you dump them in a drum, you go to pick it up to show clear, all that residue or sand or dirt gets down in the magazine, and then it's not running. So that's a self-inflicted agony that you don't need.
Yeah, we must try to avoid self-inflicted agony whenever we can. I know you have a great deal of sponsorships and you're involved with different pieces of equipment. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about or tell us about as far as equipment is concerned?
Well, the Bosberg came out with the JM Pro 940 shotgun, and they did a lot of enhancement on this product. It was kind of an evolution of the 930. So a greatly enhanced gas system. They did a lot on the stock to fit individuals. You can change the length of pull, cast, and drop. But the gas system is what they spent a lot of time on. And that maintenance cycle, we were talking about maintenance cycles. Mm-hmm. It's probably sixfold. You can run this gun, 1,500 rounds or so without cleaning it. So, and then on a gas gun like that, where it has gas rings in it, it's a vast improvement. So it's really a fast gun is what I've been shooting for the last few years, the 930s. That's one of the things, people have a perception of never wanting to work on something. I want to own it, but I don't want to maintain it. And being a maintenance mechanic, I know that's not a realistic view on anything. So, but the 940s is a vast improvement for its durability and user friendly. And of course, Vortex Optics. I've shot with them guys for a long period of time. And Smith & Wesson, their new 2.0 long slide pistols and stuff with the enhanced texturing and the enhancements they did to the slide release. It's the evolution of the product, So the more it's out there and the more people use it, you get input, you get intel, and you change it and you make it better. So it all has enhancements. It's just like getting older, you get better.
Yeah, I'm learning that. Yeah, I'm learning that. Like a fine wine.
Fine wine, exactly.
Sometimes it's sours, but I've been shooting now since the early '70s, and I've shot just about everything with a trigger on it. And what's really amazing is is how things have evolved. If you buy a bolt action rifle now, just a common, bottom end rifle. I say bottom end, like you buy at a box store with a scope on it. Just about any of them will shoot an inch now at 100 yards with factory ammunition. And when I was a young man, you can hardly get any gun to shoot an inch. So the quality of manufacture, just like with Smith & Wesson when they build a revolver now. When I first went to the factory back in the late 80s, there were like 2,600 people working there, 2,300 or something like that. And they had all these dedicated pieces of equipment. And now they have these huge machining centers and maybe a third of the people. But the quality of the product, the manufacturing tolerances that you can hold when you build something is so precise now that the quality of the product and accuracy you get out of it is so much more advanced than what it was 30, 40 years ago. And if you didn't shoot 30 or 40 years ago, you really can't appreciate the evolution of what we see now as a standard product. Just so much better. And of course, you got the old timers. Yeah, in the old days, it's always better back in 1930, but it's really not better. If you look at the individual product compared to the next one, it's exactly the same. Where the variations in manufacturing back in the day were so broad, the plus and minuses that were accepted in a product made it kind of a one of a kind, but it wasn't repeatable. With the new technology in manufacturing, that you can make exactly the same.
Well, consistency again there, right?
It is. You look at car engines now. You're running on motor oil of a 0.20, 0.16. Back when I was a kid, 30 weight, 40 weight oil was what you ran in an engine. But the manufacturing tolerances are so good now and so consistent that you can run a lot lighter oil and it'll still do the duty of a 40 or a 30 weight oil. So. Yeah,
back in the day, if you got a leak, you just throw some grease in it, and that would help seal it up.
That would. You heavy your feet, heavy it up. But anyway, manufacturing is changing. Everything is getting better.
Be the first kid on your block to have your official issue Meet the Pressers logoed gear. Visit the Meet the Pressers merchandise page on ballisticink.com to get your high-quality, American-made Meet the Pressers shirts and hats.
On the political aspect, are there any political organizations or any kind of 2A advocacy that you do, or it's dear to your heart?
But never trust a politician that doesn't trust you.
I think that's a good piece of advice.
Yeah. It's the two things you have to do to control people is limit knowledge and limit the access to a firearm. Only free men will have a gun. If you look at all the dictatorships through the world, through all the generations, the first thing they do is disarm the people and keep them stupid.
Well, an educated and armed citizenry is the true fourth check and balance of a constitutional republic and the true homeland security.
That's it. It's always been that way. And if you think anything less, you need to wake up. Just research history just a little bit, and it always repeats itself. And that's the two things you have to have: is control of knowledge and firearms, or whatever the platform of the day, be it a bow or a sword or whatever. If you control that, you control people. Other than that, why would you trust government that doesn't trust you?
Yeah. Very well said, sir.
Yeah. Saving the children. We have saved the children once again. Pretty sad, really.
Yeah.
We've got all the politicians that we voted for.
Well, I hope two positive things that can come out of this COVID crisis is that, one, we've got a lot more gun owners out there now that weren't gun owners, say, back in February.
Yep.
We welcome them into the fold. And number two, I'd like to think that when people go to the election booth, they remember those politicians that limited their rights and liberties and destroyed their businesses and however else they infringed on their personal liberty. So hopefully they'll remember that come election time.
You always remember more when you get stung. Pain is a great motivator.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a beekeeper, so I know.
there you go. You got to keep your eyes open, man. They'll pull the sheet over you in a second.
Yeah, indeed.
Very true.
Got to keep your politicians honest.
What's the best way people can follow you, stay in touch, check out what you're doing?
You can subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of content coming out, and we hope to grow it even more in the upcoming year. So.
Well, it's definitely been an honor and a pleasure to have you on, sir. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day and lending us some of your knowledge.
Thanks again, Jerry.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
All right, guys.
See you guys.
There's a lot of sponsors that make this show possible, like Mantis.
Make sure you check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is sponsored by Next Level Training, Saber Red, Cutting Edge Bullets, the USCCA, McLean Corporation, ASP, Custom Poker Chip Company, Common Sense Self-Defense, and T1 Ammunition. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by these fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, click the little bell, come on Patreon, help support us that way, come to one of our classes, or host us, we can come to you and do one of our courses at your location.
So until next time,
adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.